Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
So VM is used for messaging as a messaging broker between new applications and simple messaging broker, right? The four operations in the VM component publish. One publish to consume and listener. And fourth one is publish, consume. The four operations. Just you need to know and practice once. That is enough. And in last session, we discussed about publish and consume. So these are both one-way operations. One way means if you develop a flow and you configure a component called publish. So what publish will do is publish. We'll publish a message to the VM queue. In the VM queue, there is a queue. Is there a name, any name to this? You can give name to this. So it will publish a message to this queue and move ahead processing the next message. Next process, move ahead and next process will process that message, but it will not expect any response from the VM. Just publish one way and execute the next process. But in the VM, if you define any queue, if you name any queue VM1 or any queue, in the last example I given name as a VM1. It is internally, it has two channels. Every queue has two channels. One is a primary channel and second is a replay channel. So primary and what is other one? Replay channel. Replay queue. It is primary queue and replay queue. So each queue has that two channels. Exactly, each queue has two channels. One is for taking the input and one is the giving the output. Like that you can remember like that input and output. Publish always places in the input. It will not expect any response from the output queue. Just put the message over here and move forward to the next process. Whereas a consume also. To configure a consume, and if you configure to a queue, take the message from the queue like you configure a VM1. What happens is go to the primary channel and take some message and go to the next process. Right, so these two. This is also one way. This is, publishing the message to the channel and this is consuming the message to the channel. That's it. Vera has the next two components. These two components, listener and publish. These are two-way components. It's not listener and publish, consume. These two components are two-way components. Okay, let me give you one small example and I can show you the any point to be okay. I configure a flow. And as part of the processing, I configure a component. This is called VM publish consume. Pub and consume. I'm leaving this pub and consume. This is VM publish consume component. Okay, so what it will do is it will publish a message to the VM queue. To the primary channel. Some people call as a main channel, main queue. Every channel, it will publish some message. It will expect the response from the reflect channel. There are a few components. You can't figure out part of the flow. The control won't move further until it has a response from the reflection. It puts a message in the primary channel and waiting for response on the reflect channel. It's blocked for some time. Oh, this is one way and it's waiting for the service. And there is one more component, a listener. So far, all the three components we discussed are event processes. What are publish, cons, publish, consume. These three components are event processes. They do processing on that event. Whereas the one component in the VM stack that is called listener, that is event source. Listener, VM listener. Listener by definition, what is meant by listening? It's keep on listening for a messages. That guy is called listener. Okay. We have HTTP listener. What HTTP listener will do? ATP listener. Keep on listening for a messages. Yeah. HTTP listener in your examples. As part of HTTP listener, we configure one port. We can configure. So there is one port in your machine, either in your system. The listener always checking for messages in 8081. Just keep on checking every 1 second, 2 seconds. There is some time configured internally. Okay. Every second, just keep on checking. From your postman, post. If you give localhost 8281, postman will put a message in 8281 port. So your listener will take out that message and process it. Right. So the fundamental is listener is a guy is always, checking on a port or on a place. Also, in VM, listener will tell where it has to listen. Okay, I tell that the VM please listen on the VM1 queue. So just keep on listening for messages on the VM1 queue. When you find a message in VM1 queue, it takes a message and it processes that message. After processing finishes, puts the message back to VM, but it puts in a replay queue, not in the main queue. Take the message from primary queue, process the message, and after processing it, places the message in the replay queue. Right. That's the VM listener. VM listener. So it listens where? Where does it listen? It listens in the queue or listen is in, I don't know. Like I don't know what. What does it listen at the beginning? Listener listens on the queue. Primary channel. So it checks. It checks the primary channels all the time. So your example like HTTP listener. Is that what you're talking about? Yes, I give an example. HTTP listener. Always listen on the port. You can pick up. Where the VM listener, it listens the main queue of the VM. Exactly correct. And the main queue of the VM is not an. It's something that you have to define first, right? Yes, define first. The system MuleSoft or the studio we have, it doesn't create one by itself. It doesn't exist unless you create, right? The VM listener. The queue I mean. Queue as part of the VM configuration, we need to create a queue first. Okay, once you create, then you can let VM listener listen to queue. Exactly. And then it checks every time. If there are message in the queue, and then if you bring it in and inside the flow to process those message. Exactly. It will then process it and it puts back the answer into the reply queue exactly. Excellent. Now I understand. Thank you. Very good. Wonderful. So now this guy, right? The first guy I told, this publish consume component guy. So this guy places the message in the primary queue and waiting for the message on the reply queue. Right. Yeah, so once the listener finishes and places that message in the reply queue, it picks up message. Then it moves further from this component to this component. So these two should be configured as a as a batch, because if you configure only publish consume and you don't configure listener mix, your publish consume will time out. So you have to have VM listener. Then after that you have a publish consume. Yeah. So first you can define in any manner. Order is not important, but these two has to be fine in your application. Okay, because these two are two-way components, because the publish consume is placing the message in the primary queue and expecting the response on the reply queue. Right. Until it gets response on the reply queue, it won't move further. It's blocked here itself. Whereas listener is taking the message from the primary queue and after processing it is replying on the reply queue. Right. Oh, so somebody, another, I don't know, another channel has to pick it up from the reply and do something with the events or the message. Yeah. This guy reads the process, the message and put in the reply and then either publish consume or consume can write. Can go there and pick it up. Consume can access only the main queue. It takes the message from the main queue only. Consume only access to the main. That is one different. How about the publish? Publish also plays in the main queue. So the only other channel that we can use is the public consume. Exactly. After the VM listen. Got it? People has, one doubt. Always my student ask. The doubt is see both consume and listener. Both are consuming the messages from the VM. Okay, then what's the difference between consume and listener? Consumer. Consume also consuming the message from the queue. VM also consuming the message from the queue. Listen also consuming message from the queue. Then what is the difference between consuming using consume component and consuming using listen component? Yeah. I think the way you explained to me was that the consume can only consumes message from the main channel or main queue. Okay, that's it. Where the listener, it can also do the. It can also get the information from listens, the main queue, but it puts the message into reply queue. Yeah, that's true. But in terms of consuming the message. In terms of consuming the message. So the primary difference is, but consume, see. One consumes the queue, right? And the other one listens. Let me put the listener over here. This is your listener. So you got stopped. Okay. So anyone in queue call VM1. So here also consuming from the consuming message from the VM1 queue. Okay. And these are also listening messages on the. Yeah. So the primary difference is in the behavior. They are consuming the message. If you observe the consume, somebody triggers this listener from the postman, it gets the invoked. Then it will call consume. Then consume will go and pick up the message. Okay, if somebody not call this listener, consume will sit idly. Won't go and pick the message until it gets the invocation. Okay? Then only it's going to pick the message. Oh, so it doesn't listen. It just consumes the message. Consumes the message. Whereas the listener, nobody need to involve this one. Just keep on listening on the queue. Is message there? Is message there? Is message there? If message is available, then pick the message immediately. That's right. Do you know the name? Actually, the name says everything, right? Yes, when listen is the queue and the other one consumes that. Somebody will tell to consume. Hey, consume, go and pick up the message. Then it will go and pick the message. Or else it sits idly. Got. So that is the problem. I don't know. I don't know why we make you know. It's very simple the way that they define it or instruct it, but somehow I don't know. And we think it's more than you know. We're thinking it's more than what the name. You know what the name says, but it's okay. So you're right. One listens the queue and then does whatever I need to be done after. And where the consume one. Somebody has to tell that to consume the message exactly. So that is a primary difference between consumer and the listener. Caught? So this is very important. Like people often confuse like replay queue and the main queue. Every queue the replay queue is. Idle means replay queue. Always people focus on the main queue. Oh, even if you read any kind of stuff in the books, in the articles, they won't do the idea about the replay queue actually. How this message you know? Then for two-way communication, there are two channels. One is a main channel, one is a replay channel. Therefore, only for two-way communication. So that you need to understand. You have to get that one. Right? Then let me quickly give an example of publish consume also and move on to the next topic. I am configuring one more. This one I am giving path as publish consume. Publish consume. I am configuring publish consume component. So this publish consume component, it's too like consume. It needs to be. Somebody has to tell them to. Somewhere. So it requires input, right? So it's waiting some. It's waiting for someone like a listener to ask either publish or consume. I'm sorry. Yeah, like you know the difference between the public consume and what do you call the input. Like you were saying earlier, oh, I'm sorry, the difference between listener and public consume, still public consume. Somebody has to tell it. Exactly. To go there, publish it or consume. Where listener and it listens to queue. Exactly. Got it. Only listener is the only component in the VM stack. It is a event source, right? Yeah, rest of all the three components are event processor. Somebody. That's right. Event processor. When you are configuring the first time the VM component, right? That time you need to create the queues. Create the queues. VMM2 are created queues. First component, next component onwards. You can use that configuration or you can create some more queues. That depends upon your requirement. See, I'm using this configuration called vmconfig. Vmfig is a configuration. Already has two queues. AM2. So if you want to, you can use this configuration to publish and consume, or you don't want to use this configuration. You want to create a new configuration. That's fine. Then what you can do is instead of choosing this one, let's add one. And I'm adding edit inline. I'm adding one more queue. Something like I'm giving the name as VM2. See the configuration name as vmconfig1. You can use that also. You can customize as you want. Now I'm publishing to. You have to give a name. Let me see the configuration now. VM config is the one configuration. It has two queues and VM2. And I have one more VM configuration. The name of that VM configuration is vmconfig1, or you want to change the name, also vmconfig1 by default comes. And it has the queue called VM2. Right. Yeah. Now in your components, when you're publishing or consuming, you can choose using which configuration you're using. You're using vmconfig or vmconfig1. In the publish, I'm using the configuration of vmconfig. Right. In the consumer, I'm using the configuration of vmconfig. Yeah, also if I want to change, I can change the configuration. I can choose vmconfig1. Okay. So it depends upon our requirement. We can choose that one. What I find is your project may have multiple VM configurations. That's my intention. So I mean like maybe one that listens and the other one might be publish and consume. And maybe the other one is publish again. Also I'm using the VM config one. Now I'm using VM config one. So what I'm doing is I'm publishing a message over here. And that message is consumed by your listener. And here what I'm doing is adding some kind of separate component. Some message I'm printing over here. Okay. This message, fill up something, some process. So I'm here. We discussed about debug process, right? Yeah, the process. Yeah, debug process. Debug, how to debug the new application. The debug process. I think we touched it in the first couple of sessions where we can put a marker or something or break down something like that. Breakpoint. Yeah, that's important. We need to see, we can see all what variables are created, what payload, what are the attributes. Are there? That's right. Any point of time you want to check, you can check. If something is going wrong, that's quite useful, that the debug is quite useful. I think it's some point here. Don't worry. Anytime, while discussing some complex examples also, I will show the debug. Okay. So now it is deployed. Now I want to use this component and publish something over here. So I'm going to Postman. What's the path I've used? I've used path code pubcon. I've got 4 time configurator 85. Right. So in the Postman 885, I'm using pubcon. And I'm posting some message over here. The body. Some text message I'm posting. Text message as order. Order 1, 2, 3. I'm passing some random message. 2, 3. One set. Do you want to do like attributes? That payload. I don't want to listen. Some simple text message I want. Okay, I can tell you how dynamically we can capture and that also send us a response. And then use a different component. Set payload is not supporting that one. Started. I send this order. This order got processed, right? Okay, what's in the payload? I'm getting that response is okay. So this consume. Something right. So not actually. One second. No, now you're seeing Mike. Any point to the right. I don't know, I see. Any points to you. So consume component. This public component is published component. What will you do? It will. This will publish to the QA to the right. Yeah. What was the main queue? This is that because that message from our OK. And these are processes. What is happening is that we try to capture this one. So whatever message I post on the postman, right. So here multiple things you need to understand. So I post a stick message. And what is the user will do? Converts this to newly event message that discuss right. Attributes, payload and variables, right? So that is given to the publish component. But newly event is given for the published component. Newly events, but component. What is published on the component will do? We configured one queue. Right. That queue name is given as name1. It has the primary channel and replay channel. So right now it has newly event in hand. Published content will do is, it converts newly event to the VM message. Okay. So VM message. The VM message structure is standard messaging structure, like header and body. Header and. So whatever is there in the payload, the content is copied to the. By in the header default put something. But we don't have any control on the header. Whatever. We put some headers inside header section. And it's given to the your VMQ primary channel. The body goes to the primary channel. Then what's listed in the body, what is doing? Listen is always checking messages on the primary channel. Every few seconds. Information, the primary channel. Right. So once this component push the message in the primary channel, it becomes a message. It becomes a message given to the this now. What is this message? This message is VM message, right? Because this guy is converted to VM and put the VM message inside. The VM listener is capable of understanding the VM message. That's right. That's right. Then it converts that VM message to the Mule events payload section. Payload component. The payload component modifies the payload, whatever payload. You know existing payload. It modifies the payload. And what payload it puts is, I just defined that payload. So this is, this order got, this is the payload. It puts that, you know it modifies this message. The logger will not do anything. But anyway, after that it's processing. The same Mule event is given back to your VM listener. So what VM listener will do is, it converts the response Mule event to VM message again. And that VM message is put in reply channel. So this publish confirm component is waiting for response in the reply channel. Once this listener places the message in the reply channel and pick up that message and send that to your postman. Therefore, the postman is able to see that message. Okay. So when we got a response back on and what is called the postman, yeah, it means it went through all of that and we get the result back from the publish consume channel. Yeah. So like if you could go back to your postman now, is this how you configure right now? Like this one, the order get processed. This one, popcorn. Popcorn, I configured right now. So that's a second. That's the listener, then that is the, yeah. Which one is there? HTTP listener. So postman. So okay. So then that's the first one, right? Popcorn. So then went to the publish, consume. Yeah. And then it published a message into the VM. Right. Cool. And then the listener is the listener sub. The second subflow. The listener listens. The queue. The VM Q1. And then set the payload. And then locked. Right? Then after that, the publish, consume. Read the message from the reply queue exactly and then publish it in the postman. You know it did very quick though it was. We're not waiting much. It was very fast. Exactly. So can you for just configuration wise, can you go one more time? The tabs, what's configure, what? The first component. vConference, is that right? This is to take the message from the postman. That's right. And they call it a pubcon. And it's pubcon. The path is pubcon. Path is going to be pubcon. And the host localhost 8285, yeah. So that is configuration of your HTTP. Next, I configure a component called publish consume component. Here I'm referring the configuration as vmconfig1. This is a configuration referring, okay? See that vmconfig1. It has one queue. The queue name is vmq2. Right. I can refer this configuration. I know. You have a choice, yeah. But this one we're using vmq2, right? So I'm from publish the payload. What period I'm coming from? The client. The same period I'm putting over here. Okay. That put the message in the vmq2. Right? Oh, so I am yeah. And see if it is. See one more configuration is timeout configuration. Timeout 5 seconds. Oh, what is timeout 5 seconds? Any idea, Adam? So, okay, I think yeah. So let me see if we can understand. So you will connect to the vmq2. put some message. If there is a problem or something like that, it's going to time out after 5 seconds. So it puts the message on the main queue and waits for the response on the replay queue. Okay, so this one, it doesn't wait much. It's 5 seconds. So within 5 seconds waiting to reply. Replay queue. Does it get answers in 5 seconds? Yeah, it's less than 5 seconds. Right. Yeah. Because the listener that message and listen. There is much, processing. There is a user. Only set. Payload is there. Logger is there. It won't take that much time, right? Oh, but normally in real world work situation, you expand that time, right? If listener has so much confirmation, database lookup, and some other confirmation, okay, it's processing. Sometimes, therefore, we put that much of amount, whatever time is. Thank you. So now then, it published that into the VM queue too. Yeah, and then after that, the listener. The second one, VM listener. Yeah, kicks. Right. This one. So yeah. Exactly. In the primary channel. Yeah. So it grabs there. And then it creates a new payload. And the payload, you put it, something, get processed. It get logged. Then after that, the publish consume, gets the response back. Yeah. And from, okay. So, okay, whenever. Okay, we've set the payload, and when we set the payload is that one. It sends the message back to the reply channel. No, just we are modifying the payload over here. It won't set just by changing the payload. Yeah, you changed the payload. Yeah, then what after that? You want to log? Yeah, log it. We are just in the other. But if you put it print something, you print it. Yeah, okay, that's fine. So then he went back to the message flow. This is good. And when it comes to message flow, then it puts stuff in the reply channel. Like and then public consume gets the. So I have a question then. Why don't you put a log or something? I have a question. So, okay. So this is right now. We're not seeing. We're not seeing like I want to see what the reply channel has, what it applied. That says invisible actually. Okay, the contents of the shoes and channels in the VM. So what then? What we don't know is that the last message you got where it says that something get processed. We don't know if that it does come from on the second flow or that's coming from after publish, consume. We don't know. It's from second for itself, right? We did modifications in the second. Yeah, you don't know exactly idea we can do. But in this case, we do. The payroll and sending back to reflect. Yeah, so you're right. You set the payload, you locked it, and you know there is hard to see, like from here, what you know, what information that the reply, what you call that, their approach and a queue has. I don't know, but hopefully we'll learn more later. But I think by now I understand the concept very good. At this point, I just want to understand the how the message flows, on how the logic works, and later, I think, when we have a real time situations. Yeah, no, I think we will see that and things under the hood exactly. Clear about this two-way main channel with the channel that's in right. Try to do something this example, then you'll get the idea about that. Okay, that's right? Okay. Next thing is try to see this always. You know any configuration you need on the graphical source code and try to see what code got generated in the source code mode. So see how this VM response is happening, how the head-up configuration. So this understanding is necessary going forward. Yeah, okay. And if you see every component right, every component has some unique id. It's a doc id is a unique id for the only component. It's automatically got created. Whenever you configure a component, a unique id got associated with that component. Okay, don't worry on that if you don't understand. Yeah, unique id for each level component listener the unique id. Publish the unique logger the unique id. What the unique id is, go to configuration, see for this listener. This doc for an id, right? This is unique. It got generated here 0.0325. This is id. Okay, this it identifies this component uniquely, whereas vmconfig, this is a unique id for him. mconfig1 is a unique id. Okay, so as of now, you didn't, and there's a significance of this uniqueness. Later, when you're comparing the M unit and other kind of stuff, then you understand the importance of the unique id. Just remember that each component has a unique associated with the component. Okay, so doc, what is the doc? Yeah, is that, what is that, what is the doc? The doc idea, doc right. What does it stand for? Like, it's like a document identification number or second id. Yeah, okay? Okay, that's, and finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.